let's move away from these abandoned toll booths and take you to some other stories. Let's take you to Nairobi, Kenya, where President Akufo-Addo is attending the Africa Climate Summit. Now, he's been saying there that the fight against galamsey is yielding some positive results, especially around carbon emissions. Our correspondent in Nairobi, Kenya, Ni Ayikwe Okai, will bring us more on this story.
Africa is facing some of the worst climate consequences, ranging from drought and desertification to flooding. The continent is experiencing one of the worst food crises in 40 years. Extreme weather events are becoming more frequent on the continent. Speaking at the 2023 Africa Climate Summit, the president of Kenya, William Ruto, says the devastating impact of climate change has plunged most African countries into debt distress status.
Many of our countries are headed into debt distress because of climate change. Let's be honest. We are suffering the most, whether it is in the Sahel with drought, whether it is in the Horn of Africa with drought, whether it is in South Africa and the southern part of our continent with cyclones. And we are saying the suffering is across the globe, but we carry the biggest brunt. I'll contextualize this. And because of climate change, we are forced to divert resources that are meant for economic growth into dealing with the effects of climate change. I will contextualize this. In Kenya, we lost 2.5 million heads of livestock in northern part of Kenya. Combined with Ethiopia and Somalia and Djibouti, we lost 9.5 million heads of livestock. So what did I have to do in Kenya? So in Kenya, I've had to increase resources meant for school feeding from 1.5 million children in school, under school feeding. We've had to scale up this year to 4 million kids in school to be put under school feeding, and we've had to rearrange the budget to provide for that. So when we say climate change is destroying our economies, we are not making statements. We are making statements of fact.
The summit was thus rolled out to offer African leaders the opportunity to support ideas that drive climate resilience, adaptation, and mitigation efforts. In his address, President Akufo-Addo highlighted measures initiated by Ghana to tackle climate change. He says one of such policies, which is the ban on illegal mining, is yielding positive results towards the reduction of carbon emissions.
The strategic focus of the One Village, One Dam initiative, for example, in the northern regions of our country, is to provide all year-round access to water to smallholder farmers who practically have no viable livelihood alternatives during the long dry seasons. We're also determined to make natural gas, which we have in abundance, available for the generation of electricity. We placed a ban on illegal mining, the phenomenon we call galamsey, which was destroying our water bodies, vegetation, and our forests. Some 20,000 young people have been engaged to plant more than 30 million trees in 2 years to create jobs and restore degraded land. These policy initiatives are already using positive results to the attainment of the SDG goals, particularly the goal of reducing our carbon emissions. Additionally, I've established an advisory group of prominent private sector chief executives who are setting up a $100 million SDGs delivery fund and a $200 million green fund to complement government's efforts at tackling climate change and funding the implementation of the SDGs.
In an interaction with journalists in Kenya, the executive director of the Environmental Protection Agency, Henry Kokofu, announced a collaboration with the Ministry of Education to intensify education on matters relating to climate change in schools.
The larger and most important had been the education sector, where we've partnered with the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service to provide environment and climate change issues in our curricula. Textbooks have been printed, but I agree with you that we need to accelerate, step up the efforts, and that is what we're going to do more. And we will need the media, your support in this very encounter. It has started, and we're going to make sure we up the game.
Day 2 of the Africa Climate Summit being held in Nairobi, Kenya, had heads of state from across the African continent share their experience and policies rolled out in tackling climate change. On his part, President Akufo-Addo said policies such as the ban on illegal mining, also known as galamsey, have contributed positively towards the reduction of carbon emissions in Ghana. Reporting from the Kenyatta International Convention Center here in Nairobi, Kenya, my name is Ayikwe Okine for Citi News.